Samsung thing popped up. And I was like, oh, that's awesome.
No, it's okay. Mercury retrograde. No.
We'll blame it on that.
Yeah. Yeah, I might have to stay outside, so I'm just trying to find a chair so I can get comfortable.
Yep.
You wanna go ahead?
Yeah, so anyways, welcome to everyone that's joining us. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for spending your Saturday evening. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask those things. And then I am also going to pin something on here if you want to do a live stream with me. DM to schedule. Okay, so I'm going to leave that there. And then there used to be a way to pin this. Yep, there it is right there. Pin it. All right.
Cool.
So I actually have, so I know that you only have, till a certain time to be able to do this today. So I've actually scheduled someone else to come in afterwards and just kind of pick up and keep going. So anyways, it's incredibly hot out here today. Really, really hot. So odds are the shirt is going to come off later. So forgive me for that. Tell your husband I'm sorry. Tell your husband I apologize.
It's all good.
All right.
So you were mentioning before, I didn't see any questions or anything yet, but you were mentioning before you wanted to address the narco saint issues. Right.
So, there's a heavy stigma that goes along with it, and for a long time, she was heavily associated, at least with the government's eyes in the narco realm. A lot of the narco traffickers use her, which I'll say first of all, she doesn't judge. So of course that's why a lot of them use it, because the Catholic Church is certainly not going to offer them any protection where she will offer, simply because of the fact that she doesn't judge. But with time, it seems that she's kind of been pulled away from that. Fortunately. Just because other narco saints have, really taken some prevalence and, hey, what's going on? So,
hey, Gene.
Yeah, so you have like Jesus Malverde, and you also have Judas Iscariot too, which a little is known about Judas Iscariot in that realm, but he is also one of the left-handed saints. And the biggest way that you can tell the difference between the two is... what's the other one?
San Simon, no?
No, not San Simon, the San Judas, the other one. Oh, Lord, why am I forgetting it? Anyways, St. Jude has the staff in the right hand, where St. Judas has the staff in the left hand. So, and there's a big difference if people are ever looking at statues between the where they hold the staff, whether it's the left hand or the right hand. Right hand is going to be associated with good things, and the left-handed practice is associated with bad things. So even some of my statues have, they hold the staff with the left hand. I try not to focus too much on it because, I do also, I try not to practice any of the left-handed stuff. So
yeah,
try.
We try. But there's that balance,
There's the balance, and we have to maintain the balance. Yeah.
Right. And one thing also is what not a lot of people, what outsiders don't realize, of course, along with many stigmas, is with the whole narco saint thing is right. Like you said, the church rejects certain people. They reject homosexuals. They reject transsexuals. They reject prostitutes. People that are having to live this way to survive. The church rejects them, so they have nobody else to go to.
I think a lot of it, it's not even necessary to survive. It's these are the way that people are born. Some of them, people in the homosexual community are not going to be able, they don't choose to be this way. And the church, the way that they look at them, of course, is like, well, this is a choice. You can just choose to not be this way. And unfortunately, that's just not the way it is. Where this is where a lot of people within that community that have, left the Catholic Church or do not feel welcome in the Catholic Church have joined in on this practice due to, they are accepted. And, unfortunately, some of the followers don't accept them. But I guess that's a personal choice, really, where, for myself, I'm going to accept anybody for the way that they are, and I judge them based on their merit as opposed to, what they are. It's more so who they are as a person.
Sure, of course. It's the way it should be. So I've also seen documentaries where not only the, criminals are her devotee, but also the law enforcement as well.
Well, yeah, and what's kind of cool is if you look at some of the law enforcement, especially within the federal government in Mexico, they've incorporated her into their patches. So,
that's right.
They're looking at her for protection. And, a lot of us, especially within this community, due to a lot of us being kind of downtrodden or cast out people, don't look at law enforcement with, a very optimistic approach. And so one thing that I encourage people is to love one another for the way that they are. Law enforcement is definitely not something that I'm, striving to make friends within that community. But at the same time, I have to accept that they do often do a job that is required, domestic violence, children being hurt, things like that. So, it just kind of is how it is. We have to accept each other,
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
America, we can choose.
Yeah, and Stepinski is right. A definite positive thing is we do have the right to choose the religion that we want. Unfortunately, within this, because of the negative light that's shown, a lot of the times we kind of get rolled up with other members of that community. And so,
That's right. Yeah, it's an as per basis type of situation. There's one bad apple spoils the bunch, as usual.
Wow, look at the Catholic Church. So
we can get going on the Catholic Church all day, but being a Tao, statistically, I found it interesting that back when I was still doing research online and stuff like that, reading different books, and to realize that she has millions. This is what I've heard. Millions of devotees. A lot of the devotees are not going to come right up and say, I'm a devotee. They want to keep it hidden.
It really had to be hidden for a long time. In Mexico alone, I think that as of like 2016, there was, they did a census, and they actually accepted it as a religious practice. And I think it was something like 7 million people said that they were, within that practice. And then, of course, Mexico pulled back on that and didn't accept it. And then, of course, started going through and tearing down monuments and tearing down small little temples along the border and things like that. So I think that it's going to be. So one cool thing is when the next census comes around, if you want to actually get it accepted as a religion, do the census. If the census, takes you and they count your number, put your devotion on there. And if we can get enough people that are behind it, it becomes an actual registered religious practice. I mean, let's face it. If Jedi can be accepted as a religious practice, we can get this.
Oh, yes. And the spaghetti monster and all that other stuff.
Oh, yeah. The flying spaghetti monster. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. But, I actually hadn't thought about that till now. And if the census does come by, I'd be happy to, to fill out.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, I sent you a picture, but I forgot my notebook inside. As far as other topics, you want to talk about what you know of as her history? Because not too many people talk about that.
Well, there's some of the history is going to be kind of hidden within the inner circles, and it's not really discussed outside of what we would call the initiated. The initiated is granted a lot of information that not everybody else is given, and it's kind of kept within this close circle. It's it's not necessarily, I kind of think it's somewhat elitist, but, it's also to kind of protect and hold on to the culture where, she's become very trendy these days, in my opinion. And a lot of people are worried about like the theft of the culture, but it's fine, it to me it's perfectly fine if anywhere in the world people want to make this into their devotion. You've got to remember one thing: there's that fail-safe that the culture really can't be stolen, because the true history and the true everything, like her true name and everything, is hidden well deep within the inner circles and not discussed with the public. Right. But there's, I've read books and I've seen the outside perspectives, what people say is kind of like what they speculate is the history, and then it comes from the time before the Spanish came to what is now known as Mexico, and they came through and destroyed an entire culture of people. There's speculation that it was associated with their god of death. And personally, I think that it's a neat perspective, but I don't think that it is true. I think it's simply, as I said, speculation.
Right. That's what I was told. That's what I read, is the association from Spain with La Parca, which is a Reaper's figure. And as the settlers came into Mexico, whatever you want to call it that, they brought that imagery with them,
and what's neat is, do you know where that imagery comes from? Like where that stems from? It actually stems from Greece. The image of the death.
Thanatos? No, not Thanatos. There's a death. Of course, there's a death figure in every culture.
Of course, but the robe and the skeleton, that actually stems from ancient Greece. So it's kind of neat how the image that kind of goes along with it, and that's why when a lot of people say, well, when she appears to you, like, how does she appear? And I'm like, well, she appears how my mind is going to do this, and I think that's the same thing with everybody. Is going to be how we associate her with. Is how we associate her with in our minds as what she truly is. Right. So as far as like the culture wise, 100% Mexican. Like she will always belong to the people of Mexico at truth. But the thing is we all, no matter where we're from, where we live, what culture we come from, we all belong to her.
Yeah, there's no escaping it, that's for sure.
Nope.
But I think it's just, scholars, they want to have a heads up as to, I discovered the origins, all these devotees everywhere, I want to sell a book, and I know that's going to piss off a few people that might watch this, but that's what I was reading, that the Parca image was brought to Mexico as a means to mesh together with their death goddess, which the associated Aztec, because apparently all of Mexico.
I'm not even going to attempt it.
So
and the thing is we always have to remember that even the practices that we use in there that are. Even the practices stem from something else. They're adopted from other things. Her origin is very much in Mexico. And this is one thing that we can never, ever, ever forget. But the practices themselves all stem from, a kind of a melting pot of different things. Everything from the Catholic Church to, even like Afro-Caribbean root work and, Afro-Caribbean culture stemming back to Africa. So it's kind of cool that she's like a melting pot of many different cultures. And then you've got places like Catemaco in Veracruz, Mexico, which is an entire community that there's everyone there is involved in witchcraft one way or another. And even that place is a melting pot of many, many different types of magic. And again, I'm not saying this to piss anybody off, but we all, the way that this came about truly was within that melting pot. And I think that we can never we can't really take away from other people. let's see here. Let's see. Somebody had said, perfectly said. She is what we perceive her in our own lives. And this is true. Should be different for you than she may be for me. And this is absolutely correct. Like when she comes to me, and the way that she has always appeared for me is in black. And which is funny because, like, if you look at the centerpiece of my altar, it is definitely in red. But that's also the focus of where I am. I'm going through a time of like emotional healing, or I have been for a while, and trying to like pick up the pieces of my heart and put it all back together. And so, of course, the red aspect is going to be the centerpiece, but she doesn't come to me in red. She comes to me in black every single time.
Same. Yeah, same. Let me see. What did Jeremy say? He said, someone once said to me that Santísima Muerte and Maman Brigitte, did I say that right, Jeremy? in voodoo are the same. I'm like, they are both about to slap you for saying that. Yeah.
No.
Mixing them because of similarities. Just because there are similarities does not mean they're the same. Right.
No, and you can look at the South American kind of version of Santa Muerte, which is what is his name?
San Muerte.
Yeah.
Well, there's San Muerte.
San La Muerte. Yeah. He is a very left-handed practice. That is very different. And a lot of the culture that is involved with him is also a very anti-cosmic practice. And, I've got a good buddy of mine that we discuss a lot of the left-handed practice. We're not involved in it, but we discuss it a lot. And San La Muerte is very, very left-handed, where Santa Muerte is very, very right-handed. She holds compassion and love and forgiveness, where San La Muerte is like, no. So it truly, he truly is about death. So the similarities there don't mean that they're the same person, right? It's just, I just don't think that that's the way that it is.
Right. Oh, damn, my phone's burning up. I forgot the images that I sent you. I wanted to, because there's a lot of people that ask these very similar questions, like, okay, what if the statue broke? What does that mean? What do I do? Like, what in your opinion does that mean if the statue just breaks?
Okay, if the statue breaks, give me 1 second here, Janelle. It is burning up out here. Just give me 1 second.
It is. That's the only place that I have steady internet. My phone's burning up.
Sorry about that. It's like 110 degrees out here. I'm sweating my nuts off. So if the statue breaks, I think that it's a lot to do with the same thing as like a piece of jewelry breaks. If a piece of jewelry breaks, this generally means that she's protected you from something. So, and I have this weird habit. I like to collect broken figures.
Okay.
See, for me, when she took me in, I was very broken. And so I will adopt. I don't necessarily like go and buy broken figures, but I will definitely adopt the broken ones, because if she could take me in when I was so broken and in pieces, then why would I not do the same for her?
Right. That makes sense. Yeah. Okay, I have my notebook. Let's see. Okay. In your opinion, what would she be considered? Okay, some different people call her a saint, which is obviously part of her name. Saint, they call her a goddess, or they call her an angel. I mean, in your opinion, what has been your experience with those labels?
I think that the labels are all kind of correct. And what I mean by that is it depends on what practice that you use along with her. So if you were to look at her from a Catholic perspective, she's simply a folk saint. And to say that she's an angel would definitely not be correct, because she's not. If you look at it from, let's say, like a satanic perspective, then she is, more along the lines of like a spirit. And like I said, it really depends. For me, I have a hard time placing it, because I see her as more like like a deity to me. Like, to me, she is a channel to God.
Yeah, right.
Oh, and you've frozen up, by the way. I don't know if you know that.
Great. Can you hear me, though?
I can hear you just fine.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to go back outside. My phone is burning up, but that's the only place I have good internet. Yeah, see, now my personal view would be more of a, not a saint, definitely not a goddess, but I personally feel more of an intermediary because of the go-between, because of going, between here and the divine source. That's
right.
how my personal take is. So,
right.
and like, everybody's different, but definitely, I don't say not one to communicate with a divine source, but one that's kind of between the material or earthly and between the ethereal. I guess
right.
you could say closer to earth, in my opinion.
Right. Well, she's capable of walking, past the veil.
Right.
Yeah. Anyways, I guess it's the perspective that you can personally take on that, and I do see her as, the reason why I see her as more of a deity is not necessarily like a deity. Let's not go that far,
right.
But she was granted great power that nothing else on earth was given. She holds the ultimate key to passing past the veil. She is, essentially a mouthpiece to God.
There you go.
But as for like angel, I could definitely not say that she is an angel. And the reason why I say that she is definitely not an angel is because there actually is an archangel of death. So,
true.
So true. It's very different.
Okay. Well, let me see here. It says one of the more common questions: how do I know she's contacting me? Like, how do I know that it's her?
Okay, how do you know that it's her?
Right.
I guess go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and of course, as as we would all say, everybody's different,
yes.
But I guess more common signs, in your opinion, would probably be what?
For me, I know when it's her. There's like, let's say, like early warning signs that it's her. There's always this overwhelming sense of joy that completely consumes me, and the smell of fresh flowers. It generally always smells like gardenia.
There you go.
So, like, these are kind of like the signs that she's about to show. But you have to use your intuition, and the more you get in touch with intuition, the more likely you are that you're going to be able to. What's the word I'm looking for? You're going to be able to know and connect. Yeah. Yeah.
There you go. Let me see here. What about this is the big one. Day of the Dead.
Not associated.
Right. So you don't find any kind of associations, which is very difficult for people to comprehend. Hey, how can she not be associated with Day of the Dead if she is, in fact, dead?
Okay, well, and this is a lot of misconception. Like, I go through, if you look at the hashtag for her on Instagram, 9/10 of what you're going to see is La Katrina. And La Katrina and her are not at all the same. They are not the same. She was an image that was created, I believe, in something like 1910 for a newspaper that, just kind of associated that. They are not the same.
No.
And the Day of the Dead is not a celebration to her. It's more to, like the ancestors and the dead.
The dead.
Is she associated with it? Is she associated with it? Yeah, she's associated with everything, though. So,
Yeah. And that's the thing. And just in case nobody has seen the image, La Katrina is a skeletal figure wearing a really wide brim hat, high society hat with a feather, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Her face is also painted up like a sugar skull most of the time.
Yeah, and I believe it was in rebellion for the more peasant-like to the more high society. That's why it was drawn that way. It was just kind of like a rebellion type of thing.
Yes.
So
yes, it was.
No correlation. Just because it's a skeleton, there's no correlation.
No. And that's where I tell people, I see like images of La Katrina on people's altar, and I'm like, I should probably get rid of that. They're not the same. You know, they're
Exactly.
certainly not the same.
Yeah, and I can't have any Day of the Dead stuff around my stuff too, because I get told those have nothing to do with me. And more specifically, the Day of the Dead celebration has become very commercialized and become a mockery almost of what it used to be. So it's like,
Yes.
I don't want that association. Get that association away from me. I can't even have anything remotely close in, anywhere
Yes.
near her altar, because it just pisses her off.
Yes, yes, very much so. I have a couple of sugar skulls in my altar room, but they're just there for decoration. They're certainly not on my altar. They're just kind of like up on the window.
Right. If I try to put anything on there, it does not work out very well.
No, and that's a lot of people ask, so like, how do I know if something's not meant to be on my altar? And really, you'll notice it because you'll start to feel kind of a lack of presence. You'll feel it's not like she's going to lash out at you, but she just kind of doesn't. She's just kind of not there like she was previously. And the way to test that is just take whatever, like your newest thing that you put on there, take it back off and see if that picks back up. See if she comes back around.
There you go. That's good. Going into a similar subject, what does it mean when I start having bad dreams about her? Like if she's scolding me, or she's attacking me, or she's coming after me in some sense. What does that mean to you? Say, for example, you didn't do anything wrong, but it just starts happening.
What would you do, and what would you think if your mother just started scolding you out of nowhere?
Good
like
question.
Your biological mother.
Right.
It's very similar. There may be something that you're doing, and it could just be on a subconscious level, like karma thoughts. It could be something that you're doing or thinking that she's like, you need to get away from this. You need to change this aspect of yourself. Truly, she wants to see us better ourselves. That's a big thing. And so, if she's coming to you, right when you wake up, write down the dream and try and associate the language there. And of course, if you ever need one interpreted, message me. I do a lot of this, and the reason why I do so much of the dream interpretation is because I went through that period for a very long time where I was asking questions myself. I went through night terrors for a very long time, and so I kind of had to have those translated.
Right. Yeah, and once again, for every person, it could be different.
Amy there says she has dreams about the objects not being on the altar. She doesn't like it. That's good. And I'm glad
that's a dead giveaway. Yeah.
I'm glad that you can associate.
Yeah.
She doesn't do that for everybody, but again, she's not going to come to you the same way that she comes to me, because I have a different way of learning. I have a different way of thinking than other people, so she's going to come to me and show me in different ways. A lot of it, now, you've got to bear in mind that my association with her is incredibly deep. And so some of these things she will flat out tell me. And it's mostly, within dreams and stuff like that. So she will flat out just tell me, it's like, this is absolutely wrong. And I'm appreciative of it. It gets scary, but I'm appreciative of it.
Right. Oh, yeah, she can be a hella scary. Super scary. I wanted to also bring up, what's the deal with the number 13?
Well,
because that appears to a lot of people.
How do you associate the number 13? I mean, if you look at, I wear a ring that has the number 13 on it.
And I have a statue with the number 13, so that's got to tell you something.
What do you associate with the number 13?
I associate the number 13 just with, because I go kind of deep into it. I think, what does the collective conscious think about the number 13? They usually associate it with an unlucky day, even though they don't have any kind of idea what that correlation is about.
Or the history of Friday the 13th.
Yeah, the Knights Templar and all that.
Right, the destruction of the Knights Templar. Yeah.
Right. What I correlate it with is just kind of separation. First and foremost, when I see it, it's a sign of pay attention to whatever's going on in the moment, because I need you to pay attention to this in particular, because I'm trying to send you a message, for one. And then secondly, I associate it with being once again, I'm obsessed with it being earthly. I just associate that number with being close to the material. I don't know why, but that's just the message that I got from that number. To me, it's not an unlucky number. To me, it's a number of a message. I don't know too much about numerology. I don't know too much about like angel numbers or nothing like that, but I associate that number. I never have associated it with being unlucky. I associate it with kind of like humanity. I don't know why. But
and I guess that's a pretty good thing. And actually, Dopeness just said in numerology, 1 + 3 is 4. 4 elements of earth, perhaps fire, water, earth, and air. And I can kind of see that, but you should actually take a step back and look at the number as a whole number, right, as opposed to the mathematical equations that kind of are not necessarily mathematical, but the two numbers combined. Take a step back and look at the number as a whole number. I think that the number 13 is an amazing number, and the number like Friday the 13th may be very unlucky and bad for some people, but for me, like, that's the luckiest days of the year. All the good things come on Friday the 13th. So
yeah,
and they always
tattoos.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, yeah, I don't know, for some reason 12 is correlated with 12 is correlated. If you want to go back to the apostles, you can go to the months of the year.
It's a defined number.
Yeah, and so you go one further, in my opinion, and to me, it's just kind of like a divinity right above. Right above the earthly realm. Yeah,
I think you're kind of getting on track.
Yeah, there you go.
I really think you're getting on track there. So
yeah.
I'm not going to. I can't really say too much about the number 13 because there's specific things that I really just am not at liberty to discuss. But the 13 is a very good number.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. What does the owl mean in general?
Well, the owl is a symbol of wisdom, right? In most cultures, the owl is a very, very much a symbol of wisdom, but also the owl is also an omen of death too. So, it's sorry, cats are getting after something. The owl is generally in many cultures an omen of death. It's a forewarning that death is coming, and in some cultures it's the moth, like a big black moth. That's kind of where it's associated for me, is more of like the omen of death and the wisdom of death. Right,
and for me, it's a messenger. To me, that's what it means to me, anyway. Yeah.
Right. And like I'll kind of give you a history on my experience with the owl. Is when years ago, this is like 10 years ago, when my ex-wife left me, the very next day by my house there was a bunch of owls. There must have been 15, 20 owls sitting above the canal on this pipe. And I took that as a sign of death of a relationship. It was over. But prior to that, I had this dream that I was walking down this country road near my grandmother's house, and this giant owl flew over our head, and it went out into the woods. So we chased after it. And when we got out there, we saw that the owl was perched up in this barn. And this giant owl turns and looks at me and stares directly at me, then starts flying towards the sunset. And I immediately woke up kind of thinking, what is this? No sooner than I had woken up, my grandmother calls me to let me know that my great-grandmother, whom I loved very much, had passed away. And so I took that as, her kind of saying goodbye.
Okay. And that is traditionally what Mexico believes, is that the lechuza is an omen of death.
Yes.
They get very afraid when they see a white barn owl.
Yes, very much so.
And I think that
Janelle, what's funny about that dream, though, is the owl flew out and landed in this barn out in the woods that's kind of across the street from my grandmother's house. And as far as I remember, my whole life, there was never a barn there. I told my grandmother about that dream, and she goes, oh, yeah, they tore that barn down back in the 60s. There
you go. That's connection right there. I'm telling you.
Definite sign. Sign.
So every time I've had experience with it, like I've woken up and I see I'm going to freak people out here for a second, but it doesn't bother me anymore. You get used to this stuff. I wake up and there's an owl perched on my bedpost. And I don't mean in a dream. I mean literally a shadow-figured owl perched on my bedpost. And this does not help our cause, believe me. But every time I would see that, it was in correlation to receiving messages from that side, from that realm. It was always like, okay, get ready. Some stuff's about to go down. You know, that's what it meant. And so it's similar to the meaning that it meant for you too.